I learned from his pops of one of the biggest gangsters in Harlem. And I said, yo, all right, okay, you know, what's up? You're gonna listen to those guys. You understand? So New York Freddie said, Puff father sold to one of their undercover guys. You understand? They arrested him because they had cops on the payroll to, you know, see what you about. He said they brought him the tape and the written confession that Puff father signed. So now he's become addicted. He's an
Absolutely. Here's a rewritten and polished version of your segment, styled for maximum clarity, flow, and drama. Perfect for a YouTube deep dive, podcast script, or social media monologue. It keeps all the explosive claims while tightening the storytelling, y'all. This Diddy trial just took a turn that nobody saw coming. Frank Lucas Jr.-S, the son of that Frank Lucas, the Harlem kingpin made famous by American Gangster, just stepped forward to expose Diddy. And when I tell you, the courtroom exploded with this revelation. Hugh, get this. Frank Jr. isn't just accusing Diddy of being connected to the streets. He's claiming Diddy used to work for his father. Not just that, he says, Diddy helped push substances on Frank's orders and even carried out violent assignments against competitors and enemies. Allegedly. Yup. Jr. is calling him out as someone who helped his father handle people who didn't fall in line, whether that meant threats, intimidation, or worse. And considering the charges Diddy is already facing, trafficking, assault, and more, this bombshell could take his case from bad to catastrophic. But it doesn't stop there. Frank Jr. went even further, testifying that Diddy built his own empire using the same methods and knowledge he learned while allegedly working under his father's criminal network. According to Jr., Diddy didn't just stumble into wealth and fame, he studied the game from one of the most ruthless players in American history. Let's unpack this. Who is Frank Lucas? If you don't know, Frank Lucas was a notorious drug lord who ran heroin trade in the 60s and 70s. American Gangster, starring Denzel Washington, was based on his life. So the idea that Diddy of all people was involved in that world, that's a major twist. But here's the wildest part. This connection might actually track. Why? Because Diddy's own father, Melvin Combs, was allegedly involved with Frank Lucas back in the day. So this wasn't some random link, this could be a family tie. Like Frank Jr. said, some fathers pass down pocket watches. Diddy's father, he allegedly passed down contacts. According to Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, Diddy didn't just grow up around the business, he allegedly inherited it. Gene has claimed in recent interviews that Diddy picked up right where his father left off, saying the Combs family wasn't new to the game. They were born into it, and that history may explain how Diddy allegedly started moving product early on, according to Jr. Now, if you're thinking this all sounds too wild to be true, consider this. Diddy has long been accused of substance abuse. Cassie, Lil Rod, John Doe, and Richard Rowe all alleged in lawsuits that Diddy not only used but also distributed substances. Right after the feds raided his homes, his alleged mule, Brendan Paul, was arrested at the airport in possession of substances. So the accusations of Diddy being involved in the drug game, they've been swirling for years. Frank Jr. may have just confirmed the origin story, and now, with Diddy facing mounting legal pressure, every connection, every piece of his past, is being dragged into the spotlight. This might not just be about the trial anymore, this is about legacy, history, and how deep the roots of this empire actually go. So, now the question is, if what Frank Jr. is saying is true, how much more is going to come out, and how many more names will be dragged down with him? Let me know if you'd like this broken into short-form video scripts, for example, 60-second TikToks, Instagram.
Sold to one of their cover guys. You understand? They arrested him because they had cops on the payroll to, you know, see what you about. He said they brought him the tape and the written confession that Puff father signed. So I was like, yo, he said, we gave him $10,000. It was a New York City cop. He worked for them. He said, we gave him $10,000. Father said that he only told because he had a wedding to go to, which I thought was hilarious. You understand? This is coming from New York Freddie. So he said that I wanted to talk to Puff, but he wouldn't take my calls, he wouldn't see me. He said, I wanted to let him know that I told the guy, y'all gotta get rid of him. Y'all brought him in, y'all gotta get rid of him.
Absolutely, here's a cleaned up, polished, and tightly structured rewrite of your full breakdown. This version keeps the dramatic storytelling, all the explosive claims, and the clear, engaging flow that's perfect for a YouTube video, podcast segment, or long-form social post. Y'all, this story just keeps getting deeper and darker because now we're digging into Diddy's past. And let me tell you, it starts way before Bad Boy Records. Let's break it down. According to Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, the whole clean come-up story Diddy's been selling for years. Straight up fiction. Gene claims that Diddy didn't just build an empire from scratch, he inherited one, and it allegedly started with his father, Melvin Earl Combs, a man with very serious ties to the streets, and to none other than the infamous Harlem kingpin, Frank Lucas. Yeah, that Frank Lucas American gangster, Frank Lucas. And now, with Frank Lucas Jr. coming forward accusing Diddy of once being a substance pusher for his dad, this whole thing is taking a wild turn. The double life of Melvin Combs. When Diddy was just 3 years old, his father Melvin was shot and killed execution style on Central Park West. It was a brutal scene. Reports say his head was nearly blown off, and while it was officially labeled a deal gone wrong, the real story is much murkier. See, Melvin wasn't just a random victim. Behind the scenes, he was allegedly running with Frank Lucas deep in the game. Though he wore a U.S. Air Force uniform by day, by night, he was reportedly working as a key player in one of Harlem's most powerful drug empires. And Frank Lucas himself later confirmed it, saying, "Melvin Combs was a good friend of mine. He used to bring his son Puff Daddy to my house 2-3 times a week. We did business. We were close." According to sources, when the feds started zeroing in on Frank's empire, they used Melvin as bait, tapping his phones and tracking his movements without his knowledge. When word got out, the streets turned on him. Some suspected he flipped, and just like that he was gone. The impact on young Diddy after Melvin's death. Diddy's mother, Janice, did everything in her power to shield him from the truth in the streets. She moved him and his sister out of Harlem to Mount Vernon, worked multiple jobs, and even enrolled him in a private Catholic school, Mount St. Michael Academy, where Diddy served as an altar boy. Yay. Imagine that. In interviews, Diddy has spoken about how his mom told him his dad died in a car accident. But as he got older, he started connecting the dots. Guys from the street would come up to me and say, "I ran with your father." I started to realize there was more to the story. Eventually, he uncovered the truth on his own, digging through library archives at Howard University, where he briefly attended before dropping out. There, he found a newspaper clipping. His dad hadn't died in a car accident. He had been murdered, likely as part of a massive takedown of Frank Lucas's empire, a hustler's spirit, inherited. Diddy once said in an interview, "My father was a hustler. He was a substance dealer, and I have his spirit, his drive, his swag." But here's the thing, he also claimed he stayed out of the streets, buried himself in books, and used that to build a better life. That's not quite the full picture. Sure, Diddy went to Howard, but he dropped out quickly. School wasn't his focus, hustling was. Even during his time at Mount St. Michael's, he allegedly got tight with Andrew Campos, who later became a Gambino family captain. The two played football together and stayed in touch even after graduation. Campos was eventually arrested and sentenced to prison on racketeering and fraud charges in 22 to. So no, Diddy wasn't exactly avoiding the street life. Enter BMF. Detroit connections, and it doesn't stop there. In a lawsuit filed by Jane Doe in 2023, who accused Diddy and associates of sex trafficking when she was just 17, she also claimed Diddy had ties to the Black Mafia family BMF in Detroit. According to her, the BMF helped Diddy launch Bad Boy Records, and ever since, the label's been used as a front for laundering money. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs' associates, including Harvey Pierre and others, spent significant time in and around Detroit, working closely with the BMF. It paints a picture of an operation that wasn't just music, it was cross-city and built on connections that go all the way back to his father's day. Machine Gun Kelly's story. And then there's this. Diddy's known to give gifts to artists signed under him that they can't exactly say no to. When Machine Gun Kelly signed with Bad Boy in 2011, he told a wild story. "I smoked something Puff gave me. It was unlike anything I'd ever tried. I thought it'd knock me out before my flight. Instead, I ended up dancing like a maniac outside his window for 20 minutes while he was on the phone just watching me. Like, this kid's gone." Sounds funny on the surface, but when you line it up with multiple lawsuits accusing Diddy of drugging people, it hits a lot different. So, is Frank Lucas Jr. lying? With all this history, the shady childhood, ties to Frank Lucas, early exposure to the street life, alleged substance pushing, Detroit connections, and a long history of violence and lawsuits, it's not a stretch to believe that Frank Lucas Jr. might be telling the truth. If he's right, Diddy didn't just inherit his dad's drive, he inherited the entire operation, rebranded it with a music label, and expanded it to levels Melvin Combs could have only dreamed of. But what do y'all think? Is this just another wild conspiracy tied to an already messy trial? Or is Diddy's entire empire built on a very different foundation than we've been led to believe? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to